Hello, welcome, and happy holidays, folks. It is 420, which means we are live for another episode of the Cole Memo. Thank you all for tuning in. I see that we've already got a few people rolling into the room. So I appreciate you tuning in. You can always find all of my work at colememo.com. You can consider supporting the show at colememo.com/support. And we might even take callers later today. That'll be at colememo.com/live. I think my guests will like that. We've made it so that I can say we're taking callers, but we'll see if time permits for that. Today we'll be going through and digging into the implications of President Trump's recent executive order, which directed the Attorney General to move forward with the rule-making process to reschedule cannabis to Schedule 3 under the Controlled Substances Act, which is historic. It's big news, and that's why we're taking the time to talk about it today. Once again, he directed the Attorney General to move forth in, quote, the most expeditious manner in accordance with federal law, end quote. So we'll see what that means. But today, we're going to be talking about what we're hearing behind the scenes, what this could realistically mean for businesses, consumers, and policy going forward. And to break all of that down, I'll be joined by a special guest that longtime listeners of my work will recognize. That's all coming up right here on
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memorandum.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memorandum.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memo is what allows this whole thing to go on.
I mean, you have to respect the memo.
Hey, this is Tommy Chong, and you're listening and watching The Cole Memo.
All right. So I am about to bring on a longtime friend. And like I say, most listeners who have been seeing my work over the years will recognize Brad Spearson. Welcome to the Cole Memo. How's it going today?
It's going extremely well, Cole. I'm really psyched to be on this with you. And, it's awesome to be talking with you.
Yeah, well, thank you again for reaching out and suggesting this idea. I'm excited to hear what you've been hearing and what you've been thinking. But before we get into that, in case people don't know who you are, can you reintroduce yourself?
Sure. I saw that you had a clip from Jared Polis on your intro. He funded the first company I started in Chicago a long time ago, about 26 years ago. He was in the private sector. I'm a journalist entrepreneur who got into the cannabis sector in 2019, founding Grown In, a newsletter and other iterations, education company, events company. Took about a 15-month Sensimilla sabbatical, and I started covering the cannabis industry in Illinois, nationally, a little bit internationally, again, about a month ago.
Awesome. Sensimilla sabbatical. I had to write that one down.
Thank you.
That's good. And one of our listeners said, go Bears. We have to acknowledge that right off the top. That was an exciting game.
It will, there's some correlation with cannabis there we can get into.
Awesome. Well, what are you hearing? Let's just get right into rescheduling, and maybe we can talk football to close.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Well, is Cole Memo still Illinois oriented, national? Who's the audience?
It's definitely national. I'd say we focus a lot on Illinois still. Yeah.
Okay. They're both kind of intertwined. Let's go Illinois because everyone's talking about national, in other places.
Sure.
Illinois is home to 3 publicly traded cannabis companies, Green Thumb Industries, Cresco Labs, and Verano Holdings. And those companies, as well as anyone licensed in Illinois or any state in the United States, have had to adhere to an arcane tax rule called 280E, which causes them to pay lots and lots of taxes, of which most companies are way behind. This rescheduling, among other things, for the Illinois industry, not just them, but everybody, is going to get a huge tax break if this eventually goes through. A lot of people call it a quote unquote accelerant to the market. Like it's a bit of a jolt. It's been a rough 3.5 years or so, as we all know. But from my perspective, it's certainly rescheduling. Trump doing it, even though Biden did it. Trump doing it, or pushing it at least. It's the biggest thing since I started covering the beat in 19, and probably the biggest thing since Colorado and Washington went rec back in like 14, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for all of history, I would say, for all of history, this has been, whether or not, some of my listeners debate whether or not this is far enough. Putting that debate aside, this is the most historic move in cannabis policy in history. If it were to go through, I should say, we should remind folks that, this Trump on December 18th ordered his administration to move expeditiously to reschedule. But the final rule has not been issued yet. So I just wanted to make that small earmark. But we're, assuming it all goes through, I don't see why it wouldn't. Again, back to my main point, this is the most substantive development in cannabis policy, that we've seen. So
I concur. Locally, there's an entrepreneur, a lot of private interests in the Illinois market, said that his net worth would go up approximately 25%. I don't have a strong sample size. I've talked to a lot of people that say it's not going to help them at all. I talked to a lot of people that says it doesn't go far enough. It only helps the big companies. It may skew more toward one part of the industry than the other, but everyone getting tax relief. And then, from a national basis, we didn't call it yet an ability, but the FDA, I think, is more likely to begin stronger research on cannabis now, or once it's rescheduled to 3, than it was at 1, and that could unlock a lot of other interesting things.
Yeah, research has been a huge component of this conversation, no doubt. And like you just said, it will be super interesting to see how it all develops. I'm just curious, in case people, I don't know if we have spelled it out yet, what are you hearing would be the sort of industry advantage, or the, I guess, a positive effect that it would have on the industry? And I guess just to lead off, I'm hearing, and you mentioned it, but we didn't really spell it out, 280E relief. That's going to be a big relief for folks. Are you also hearing that?
Very much. Again, like, if there's no relief, technically, many of the companies we know and love, big and small, will probably go under.
Gotcha.
So that's a big one, but not the only one. We talked a little bit about the research capacity. I think also, it's significant, regardless of what you think of President Trump, from that context of a Republican in the Oval Office, saying that he has sick friends, and they benefit from it, and we got to do this. He says a lot of things, but the fact remains, that's where this is coming from, and I hear more stronger support on the part of federal legislators that lean toward the right, that are, getting educated, so to speak. And I think their constituents are asking them for it. I think they're making a calculation right now. Is it net positive or not?
Right. Yeah. That'll be interesting to see. I will say, a brief tangent here. One thing I've also been hearing, and I'm curious if you've heard, you reminded me when you said sort of the perception that maybe some of these lawmakers that would tend to be opposed to this type of development. I guess just to put it shortly, what I'm hearing is that people that tend to be opposed to cannabis policy advancement or legalization point have often pointed to it being Schedule 1 and it being alongside the most dangerous drugs. And now perhaps it may become more palatable for a lawmaker to say, well, this isn't on, in the most dangerous, schedule. It has some medical value, and therefore maybe we'll see more policy reform, like I
Yeah,
said, more palatable.
and I mean, widen it out here. The president's biggest benefactor in 2024 is a well-known ketamine user.
Right.
So, that would ordinarily disqualify people that's no one really talks about that. I mean, it's just a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I saw interesting reporting from News Nation. Another brief tangent here, just to your point of, I know that like I think you put it well, our president says a lot of different things. So take it all for what it's worth. But I'm going to throw this on our screen here, possibly. There we go. News Nation reported that there was a heated meeting. It was this closed door meeting, and that apparently Donald Trump said something to the effect of, and I'm highlighting the quote here, "We're not doing Schedule 2. Schedule 2 is a half-assed version of Schedule 3. We're doing 3 or we do nothing." So interesting reporting.
I don't agree with the guy often, but there's a lot of logic to that.
Right.
Yeah. It's right. That's correct.
Yeah. I wish that the statement was, "We're not doing 3. 3 is a half-assed version of descheduling." But I'm living in a hopeful world.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I mean, I was reading Politico recently via the Cultivated newsletter. They linked out to a article from Politico, which is a long time Washington D.C. based publication. They threw out the names Kim Rivers from True Leave in Florida. Another news publication said an executive from Scott's Miracle Grow. People that I talk to claim that Kim Rivers, moves around rather easily in Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
So it's been socialized.
Right. Here are some of the photos that the White House posted, and you can see Kim Rivers right here. So they were present. I'm trying to think, what was the other individual? Howard Kessler?
Yeah, that's the one. I was trying to think of his name. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think early 90s, he started a credit card company. And then he donates to all sides of the aisle. And I think he's got some personal connection to cannabis and is a huge advocate.
Yeah. Yeah. So like you say, just trying to call it how I see it here. It seems like this presidency, oftentimes it's the people that surround the president that influence policy. We've seen that in many different instances, and here's another one. Like you say, some of these people that want to advance cannabis policy obviously have his ear, and so like you say, it's just a very, very interesting development here.
Yeah. One other thing for political geeks, the Politico story noted that there's some kind of association between Kim Rivers and the daughter of Susie Wiles, who is the chief of staff to Donald Trump, and also the daughter of Pat Summerall. But that's for the football conversation later.
Okay. Interesting. Those are really interesting connections.
I know, it's weird.
So shout out to our friends from Politico.
Yeah, good stuff. Good reporting.
Canra, I thought Canra's summary was worth sharing. Maybe this will spur other thoughts from us. They've got a top line summary here that I'm displaying on screen. They're talking about the removal of the applicability of Section 280E, which we've discussed many different times, or a few different times at this point. Another thing we've discussed, potentially making it easier to obtain and maintain a U.S. DEA registration as a Schedule 3 research facility in order to research cannabis. So those are things Schedule 3 will do. One thing I think it's notable to cover some of the things it won't do. It won't change the federal status of state regulated markets. Those would remain non compliant with U.S. federal law. I'm curious on that note, Brad, I don't know if you remember, but when this conversation started in the Biden administration, first of all, I think you and I were at Benzinga, if I recall correctly. But also, I remember the discussion being like, okay, so Biden has directed HHS to do this once the recommendation is given and whatever it was, because at the time the recommendation wasn't known, the process had just started. But I can't remember when, but somewhere along the way there was discussions about, okay, there will be a reclassification, and that will be followed up by, at the time they were saying, a Garland memo, Attorney General Merrick Garland. Now, I've heard a little bit of people saying, oh, we might see a Bondi memo. In case people didn't know, the reason the show is called the Cole memo, because the federal status of state regulated markets is, again, it's just non-compliant with federal law. So as you sort of alluded to earlier, when Colorado legalized it back in 2012, some point after or around that time, the Justice Department issued the Cole memo, which would basically allow these state markets to continue so long as they followed a certain number of policy objectives. My question after that long explanation is, have you been hearing similar chatter? Do you think that's something we can expect, a Bondi memo, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the Garland memo. He was behind on a lot of things he didn't get done, unfortunately, including this. And I would say that, yeah, I mean, I think, broadly, the differences between the Biden administration and the Trump administration, I think, at least for the time being, Trump has pretty firm control over his administration, whereas Biden, got a lot of pushback from the DEA, institutional, bureaucrats that have dedicated their lives to fighting marijuana for however long. So yeah, I don't think the way Biden operated, like he's like, I'm not gonna, that we'll live to another fight. Whereas Trump very well could just say, do this.
Yeah. Well, and I will say that's one thing that was mentioned that I thought would be notable to mention. I saw Shane Pennington, if folks aren't familiar with him, super involved in cannabis policy. I believe he may have been involved in the FOIA that ultimately revealed what HHS recommended, which was Schedule 3. But to your point, one of the things that I was told, not by him, that I heard from him on a show that he went on to, he said that it's notable that this executive order, which I'm displaying on screen, it's different from what Biden had recommended, which is he recommended HHS to look into rescheduling. He didn't give a formal, he didn't really say which class to put it in. He just said, look into it. It's ridiculous that it's Schedule 1. This is interesting. And I was, like I said, I had heard this is notable that he's specifically saying the Attorney General shall take all necessary steps to complete the rulemaking process, which is different than just like you say, I guess if it would have been done any other way, what had happened in the past, if you directed an agency to do it without a clear, hey, do this expeditiously, basically that something had happened in the past could happen again. So just wanted to share that.
Interesting. Thank you. That's awesome to know.
Yeah, and so really quick, some people are commenting just because I don't know these connections. They say David Charles from Mood was there. I'm not sure.
Hemp's all over the place too. I don't know David Charles, but
this is the connection I had heard in the past. Susie Wiles or Susie's daughter is apparently dating Brett Worley, who I guess is somebody that's big in hemp. So like you
That
say,
means
like,
Pat Summerall's great grandchild could be a scion of the hemp industry.
yeah, straight up. But I bring those comments up just because, to your point, there were a lot of different policy advisors that were present
Yeah.
at the meeting. I think it's also even worth mentioning that Dr. Nora Volkow. People may not be familiar with that name, but I am, because I've had the folks from Smart Approaches to Marijuana on the show in the past, who, of course, are opposed to legalization. Nora Volkow, who is this woman that's to the right of President Trump, right here, she has actually spoken at Smart Approaches to Marijuana events in the past, and I just think it's notable that she's there. Somebody who's spoken at what many would consider to be a prohibitionist event was at this meeting of the minds. So
Totally. And on the hemp issue, yeah, I think the commenter is a very important point. The concurrent with all of this is kind of a more definitive conversation in terms of how legal hemp that gets you high should be and in what form factor.
right. I say that as I'm drinking on some hemp right now.
I have an NA Samuel Adams.
Hey, cheers, my friend. Cheers.
Sure,
So, yeah, no, to your point, I think a big part of this executive order that people did not expect was there was a lot of language surrounding hemp and full spectrum products. And I think that was definitely surprising. And we can get to that in a moment. I was going to throw this back on screen really quick. It would not legalize interstate commerce, Schedule 3.
That's a huge one.
Yeah, that is definitely a big one. Now, interstate commerce of Schedule 3 drugs requires approval from the FDA, and that's, I think, the big distinction here. It would allow for the use of, it would not allow for the use of real-world cannabis products in human research unless they meet FDA requirements for safety and quality through an investigational new drug, an IND application. It would not. This is a big one that not a lot of
the FDA wasn't even allowed to look at it before, so this is progress.
Yes, indeed. This is one that I think people are getting confused on. I'm curious what chatter you're hearing. A lot of people I've talked to say, "Hey, this fixes banking for the cannabis industry." And as Canra points out, this does not change existing industry guidance from FinCEN unless new guidance is released by the Department of Treasury.
Yeah, and then on that, I think Trump was saying, he wants to lean on, or there were rumors maybe last week before the announcement on Thursday that he wanted to lean on Congress to pass SAFE quickly. I mean, Congress, may or may not be open all the time. So to what degree they prioritize that or package it into something else, I don't know. But I think there was some stock movement on speculation that there would be something with more teeth involving banking. But yeah, nothing regarding Schedule 3 has any impact on nationally chartered financial institutions perhaps getting revoked because they're in this business.
Right. Or we've heard stories, I'm sure you've heard them too, about people not being able to apply for like a home loan because their income is from the cannabis industry, things like that. So two other, important big ticket items. I think this one is notable because like I just said, I had Smart Approaches to Marijuana on the show, and they were like, well, what does this do for drug testing requirements? Well, according to Canra's interpretation, this does not change federal drug testing requirements unless otherwise specified by appropriate federal agencies. So no change there.
Look where the talent goes.
What do you mean by that? Oh, I think I just calculated it, but spell it out for our listeners, please.
Places that test for drugs are putting a limit on productivity. Yeah. Well said.
Yeah, I could go on. I was about to say, and maybe even pushing their employees towards more dangerous substances, but I'll stay off of my
Yeah.
soapbox. The last one, and I think this is really important. I saw Ben Kovler cover this when he was asked, Ben, what's your take on this? He said, it'll be great if we can get some relief from 280E, but this does not legalize cannabis. This does not change criminal penalties for individuals found to be trafficking cannabis. That's notable, I think, to mention because
Totally. And then he's notable for a lot of reasons. He's probably the most accomplished cannabis executive certainly in Illinois, maybe the United States. He's in THC, he's in hemp. The senoritas from an acquisition, and they're sold all over the place in bars in Chicago. So yeah, he's in a position, to take a longer view on a lot of things.
Yeah. He's doing the way he's doing it is definitely something that I know a lot of people in the industry are, let's just say, looking at and hoping to mimic. If I'm not mistaken,
Like
GTI.
profitability.
What's that?
Profitability, particularly.
Bingo. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. If I'm not mistaken, and that GTI is one of the only companies that is in the black. In other words, profitable.
Yes.
So
public. I hear stories of private, and there's a whole, and we don't know exactly what's going on there, but yeah, publicly they're like one of two maybe that are profitable, and they're significantly more than the other one.
Yeah. So, here are some unknowns. We don't know the timeline. I mentioned that earlier. They did say expeditiously, but last time they were asked about this a few months ago, they also said that they'd make a decision in a few weeks, and here we are in December. So what does expeditiously mean and everything? I will say that once a rule is issued, from what I understand, the rulemaking process gives 30 days until the rule becomes final. So that's something people can expect. We don't know when the rule will be issued, but once it's issued, there's a 30-day time period in order to, if people have objections, which again, I'm sure our friends from Smart Approaches to Marijuana may, they have already threatened a lawsuit to sort of try to slow this down. We'll see if that has any traction.
Yeah, I'd say when I first started covering this stuff, a lot of people pointed out to me that it wasn't like alcohol went from prohibition to legal by every state overnight. It took a long time, and up until recently, certain states would only have less amounts of alcohol and this and that. So it does take time. I don't know if it necessarily needs to take as long as that, but there is a comparison to another popular product that is, I think, kind of commercially decriminalized already.
Yeah. And to your point, I mean, I grew up in a town that was a dry town, so I saw the end of prohibition, even in my lifetime. So
exactly.
I will just add, I did see a funny joke online, and I think we can both laugh at this. They said, and it's obviously a rhetorical question, but it's a funny one. They said, so when alcohol, when alcohol prohibition ended, did they move it to Schedule 3 first, or? And it's a funny rhetorical question. Yeah. Of course, the Controlled Substances Act didn't exist back then, so it's not even really a applicable question.
Chicago was also a leader in the decriminalizing alcohol industry.
Really?
In its own way. Well, yeah, the mafia.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, we definitely pushed the envelope there.
Really? But Michael Jordan and Caleb Williams now give Chicago a different sheen.
Yes. Yeah, straight up. So any other just big thoughts that you're hearing? I guess just to echo some things that you've said already from the perspectives I've heard in the industry. Some people say this is going to be huge, that the tax relief or the relief from 280E is going to be massive, and that the sort of downstream effects, as I mentioned earlier, could perhaps make it easier to move policy forward. I've also heard, I don't know how this looks, Cole. I don't know if this is going to help me. Some people are more confident than others in how this will impact them. I guess I just wanted to sort of ask you any other thoughts that we haven't covered that you're hearing from the industry on the ground on this subject.
Yeah, nothing comes available immediately, but there's a lot of momentum in terms of wanting to take what happened on Thursday and continue to grow. And I think I see more cases in mainstream business where everyone wants to talk to me about weed anyway, but particularly since Thursday, or when the rumors started. So there's that kind of curious again, thinking that the industry has been great this whole time. Everyone's doing it. It must be expanding. They don't know. So that may bring other, that I guess in theory would increase the value of companies that are licensed in that space, and they might have more money and they might pay service providers or conveners something that they can get an ROI.
Speaking of ROI, have you heard it all? I use ROI as a helpful transition, but I'm sure that my question can manifest itself in many different ways. When this is an Illinois specific question. When we initially did our adult use program, a lot of the discussion was about how much these licenses would be worth. And then over the years, the discussion became, well, the licenses they were not valued as much as we thought they would be worth. My question is, do you think this has the potential to sort of get things back to where they are, or am I getting a little bit too ahead of myself?
No, unfortunately not. I think someone that's looked at that Illinois licensed market pretty closely since the middle of 19 and was part of an investigative news publication that FOIA'd, how the scoring happened and or did not, or delays and this and that. What happened ultimately, unfortunately, is in 19 is yeah, oh my God, this is huge. I know people making a lot of money. You can make a lot of money. Do this. And let's social equity. Let's find representation. They didn't know about the veterans yet. And people thought they were going to make a lot of money. I lived through the .com boom. People, it reminded me of that a little bit. COVID, scoring debacle, managed by KPMG. And, I think there was people at the state on charge of this kind of thing that didn't read all the contracts that they signed. And so that took 2 years, 3 years. By that time, early 22, the balloon had popped. No one had any money left. So most of these social equity designated entrepreneurs, just had a horrible time trying to raise money to stand up a dispensary, an infuser, or a craft grow. And there's more competition. Weed is cheaper. A lot of people go to Michigan. It's a tough business. And the cultivators that sell them weed, freely say, and they understand it, but it's becoming a problem that they're not getting paid nearly on time. So it's really rough right now.
That's something else I've heard, that, were you about to say something or?
I just squeezed my Samuel Adams Golden, clean, crisp, and refreshing.
Oh, nice. um, one of the things I had also heard, one of the things you mentioned, which is that some companies are almost, this is a term from, I'm just realizing back in my day, you know what fronting product means?
Not yet.
It's like, let's say I'm getting paid this Friday, Brad. Like, can I have a gram? Can you front me a gram? I'll pay you back this Friday. In other words,
That usually doesn't end well.
right, right. And that's what I'm hearing. And it sounds like you're hearing the same thing. Is
Yeah. I mean,
like
my business, Gronin's events, you know, circa 22, 23, 24, when we weren't doing the Cannabis Innovation Lab at 1871, we had matchmaking events between the big brands, you know, and some small craft grows and those dispensary owners. You know, they all know each other, which is a great thing. And you know, something's got to change there. You know, all sides. You know, whether you're an independent retailer, you know, a little bit larger, or even on the MSO side. But you know, just the market in Illinois is not what it was when I left. PharmaCann is selling for pieces. I just read, it said I think their Colorado operations were just sold for a significant amount of money, but I think not as much as they paid for it. And they're trying to sell Dwight. I think, while at the same time they get into like Texas. So like it's lumpy. But yeah, I know I'm meandering a little bit. Back to your original question. I'm sorry. I don't think, unfortunately, the social equity entrepreneurial teams that in good faith wanted to get into the cannabis business and the government, I very much applaud the progressive legislation that, it didn't work, for a variety of reasons. No one ever tried it before, but it didn't work. And so those are the people out now kind of holding the bag, and competing against, bodegas that sell grass and cannabis beverages, and God bless them for doing that, but they don't have to pay the same kind of taxes. They don't have to go through the same compliance. They're trying to sort that out at the city level and the federal level, but it's thorny.
Brad,
Chicago City, sorry.
Yeah. I'm curious, like with like you mentioned GTI earlier, and they're a good example. There's also this company, I'm drinking a hemp drink right now. There's many different companies in the space, and I'm under the impression that they are able to, sell these products D2C or in retail formats. They've already been able to avoid 280E because it's not been sold as a Schedule 1 drug. They've been able to bank. They've been able to accept credit cards. There are many different consumer perks that I could go down, but I'm just talking about the industry benefits. Did I mention they could bank? They don't have to really wait for safe banking.
Yeah. They should shut down on November 16th, 2026 unless there's a deal, but yes.
And thank you for mentioning that too. That's important. But I guess my question is exactly that. Because what I just effectively said is a resolution to most of the issues that the cannabis industry complains about, the inability to bank, the inability to accept credit cards, a few of the other things I mentioned. I've had different people on the show in the past. One perspective that I found really interesting was they said, I'd love to be in the room where they did the analysis on whether to like support the hemp ban or support proposals that would, sort of address some of the issues that people rightfully have. Like, for example, the sale of, we should have like an age gate to prevent the sale of cannabis products to a minor, right? My question is like, why do you think we didn't see broad scale support of what hemp effectively solved the industry problems hemp effectively solved? It seemed like a lot of the cannabis industry was sort of quiet on the issue. And I guess, again, my question is if it solved a lot of their complaints, why didn't we see them sort of like surround that and sort of ensure that it would just continue under a stronger and more responsible framework?
Yeah, I think that's an ongoing negotiation, like in Chicago City Council, Springfield, and in Congress, and municipalities and state houses all over the country right now. And it's different in different places. I apologize for getting overly broad, but like, it's all one plant, and I think eventually, regulatory bodies, are going to treat it as such.
Yeah.
But that could take like 10 years.
Right. Yeah. I would just selfishly as a consumer, I would hate to see like, I got these drinks delivered to my door and stuff, so that's why I'd hate to see it. But like I say, I just really that's one thing that has always confounded me. If it solves so many of the industry's problems and allows them to sell through normal retail formats, like we saw Target start selling, some of these drinks this year in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that seems like a really big win, and I just
love it. I spend dollars every month on cannabis beverages, like that. At Binny's, or my girlfriend spends even more than me on it and likes it even more.
Yeah, I think it sounds like your girlfriend and I have similar consumption habits, but we won't get into that.
That's okay.
I will just say if folks want to see other Illinois executives react to the executive order, the Illinois News Joint did some good reporting, and you can see several Illinois executives' responses to the policy development. So just wanted to give a shout out to a local outlet, support local. Any other thoughts? I was going to open up we'll open it up to like football and stuff. I'll even say, hey, we're taking callers, folks. If you want to call in at colememo.com/live. Once again, that's colememo.com/live. Call in. Feel free to bring your questions before Brad and I wrap up for the night. And maybe while we do that, what'd you think about that Bears-Packers game the other day, man? Pretty crazy, huh?
It was highly enjoyable. It was one of the most entertaining sports moments in Chicago in my lifetime, and I'm 51. It was good stuff. I hope they keep it up.
Yeah, me too. It's nice to have something to root for. One of our commenters pointed out, and I'll do this here. Hemp. They pointed out that hemp THC is mentioned in the executive order. So that's definitely interesting. I know we discussed it briefly, but I think that's going to be an interesting development, folks.
It's all in play. I mean, right. and you got some companies that are in both. You got some that support one. You got some that support the other. You got big beverage, alcohol, everything else, like waiting to see what happens and quietly funding prototypes and that kind of thing. There has to be a deal because, as we just said, it's a form factor that consumers love.
Yeah. Well said. So it'll be interesting to see the, how that all develops. Like you say, I think you put it really well that it's in play, and we'll see how it develops. So folks, drop your questions if you have any. I appreciate everybody tuning in. If you haven't already, hit the like button. It helps more people see our show, and we could use all the support we can get. We're always welcoming of support. And on that note, you can also support us at colememo.com/support. But like I said, one of the easiest way to do that, to support us, is to like our content and share it with your friends. Free, easy, and effective. You got anything cool coming up, Brad? Like,
yeah. One other thing on football though, like, I used to cover sports a long time ago. So weed, sports, tech, ed tech, mobile. I think that there's been a correlation between cannabis and the NFL success since 14. It's by coincidence or serendipity that the first two teams to play in the Super Bowl that year were the Seahawks and the Broncos, representing Colorado and Washington, which pioneered legal recreational cannabis in the United States. Now that we have an era of head coaches that are on the friendlier side of 40, including Ben Johnson, I am wondering how many of these coaches, including Coach Johnson, who I think is the most impressive Illinoisan of 2025, have imbibed on cannabis.
Yeah, I was just Googling if coaches can even use cannabis.
I mean, I don't think so, but growing up.
Yeah,
fair. Johnson was like a computer programmer at one point. They're all high. Not all of them, but
it tends to.
It would have been in the ecosystem.
Absolutely, definitely in the ecosystem from my limited experience. Some interesting developments that people have mentioned since the last time we've talked, just speaking of adult use, because I do think this is also historic. There are conversations in multiple states at this point about repealing the adult use program. Have you heard about this? Like Massachusetts, Maine, for example, and I think somebody else is saying that potentially Arizona now.
I wouldn't know too much beyond what you just said, but at the same time, people are competing for business rights in Virginia right now because the incoming governor is more of a friend of weed. So I think someone outbid Cureleaf for the cannabis Virginia facility. Yeah, I mean, it could be the program itself. I don't know how you put that one back in the bottle or the bong, so to speak.
Well, and yeah, you've always got the best puns loaded up. There's one.
Thank you.
I have heard allegations regarding, to your point of how do you put the water back in the bong or whatever, that there are some people putting allegations out that the Massachusetts ballot measure in particular may have been, let's just say, misleading. That those are the allegations right now. So perhaps how you do it is to mislead people. Like I say, it remains to be seen. Those are the allegations right now. We'll see how it all plays out and what is found. But yeah, I guess I bring that up because I don't see us undoing the progress we've made. I just don't see it. But
yeah. And again, by the time they do it, there could be some kind of federal thing anyway. If I spent a little over a year working for a state entity, and things don't go fast.
Right. Yeah. Well said. Well, any other thoughts on rescheduling? We haven't gotten any callers.
Rescheduling. I mean, you asked about upcoming fun things.
Yes.
So, Grown In right now is like, I do some blogging through the Grown In LinkedIn channel that anyone is free to follow, and as well as my personal LinkedIn. And I try to synthesize the dozens and dozens of conversations I'm having each week with stakeholders in local, national, and international cannabis communities, what they think is happening right now. We want to get a lot of those people together. In Chicago, I would say late winter, early spring. And I am looking for venues and specifying, not just consumption, but flower inside.
Awesome. Flower consumption.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah. I love to hear that.
So
those
we'll see. I mean, no one's calling me back.
Yeah. Well, folks, if you know anybody in
Yeah.
the Chicagoland area, hook
We'll
Brad
see.
up, and
We did it. We they're tasting events sometimes. We did it outside back in July 2024. It was a real hoot. I'll send you the link to the trailer, and yeah, there's different use cases to get people together for cannabis, but it is a huge Chicago industry. It's a huge Midwest industry, and you have all of these different states with different regulatory environments and competition. You talked about Minnesota, Target, like all of that stuff, and I think we're well positioned with some help from our friends to make a positive experience for everyone that participates.
yeah, I mean, I will just say that whenever I've gone to anything that you've thrown, I've always had a great time, and so for all those reasons, obviously we'll share the details once they become official.
Yes,
But
the venues need to call me back, and then we'll get it. Hope to begin publicizing by first week of January of 26.
Sweet. Well, I was just about to say that because I've always had a great experience, that I will definitely be at that next one, and we will share the details once they're concrete. So I will just say, in the meantime, you mentioned your LinkedIn pages. I'll have those links in the show notes for folks that want to get connected to my friend Jay Bradley Spearson and the outlet Grown In. We'll have the link to the LinkedIn page. Hey, it's good to see an old friend from the cannabis space here in Illinois dropping a comment. I don't know if you remember Michael Malcolm from the Illinois space, but
Yeah,
cool guy.
revolution.
Yes, he remembers your story. Yep. So Brad, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to when you roll out more details, because I just every time we get together, we always have a really good time.
We shall be up and rolling.
Yes, I'm glad your Sensimilla sabbatical has come to a close.
Yeah, learned a lot. You know, it was like AI and quantum for a lot, and all that stuff's going to come together someday. But yeah, this does feel like home.
And I mean, I feel like in order to deal with AI and quantum, you gotta have some Sensimilla around. I mean,
Just
seems
right
right.
about the programmers. You know, I mean,
That's
now that it's like X order of magnitude more complex, you know, then back to Elon likes ketamine.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't seem like a bad in that specific regard. I know that some people have strong feelings about that individual, but in that specific regard, and we're talking about drug policy right now, which is what Brad and I enjoy on occasion discussing. Seems like that's not a bad person to have around with regard to that discussion. So
Yeah. Till then,
yeah,
happy holidays. Go Bears.
go Bears indeed, folks. This could be our year. So we shall see. Speaking of our year, folks, this is going to be the last episode of the Cole Memo for the year. So Brad, I'm glad we could cap the year off together. I want to wish everybody a happy holiday season. I'm going to be doing some traveling, and like I said, won't be back until after the new year. So I hope you all enjoy the holiday season with friends, family, or whatever you're doing. And we will see you next year on the Cole Memo. Until then, take care, everybody. And thanks again for tuning in. And as always, check out the show notes, and we'll have links to some of the materials discussed. We always like to share our sources so that you can pull it up on your own computer and do your own digging, come to your own conclusions. If you're watching live right now, I add those links after the fact. So thanks for tuning in live. Hit that like button if you haven't already, and we will see you on the next episode of the Cole Memo. Take care.
Bears.
Go Bears.